Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who have joined a few minutes early, thank you for your promptness. And we will be getting started. I'm hoping to start promptly at 3, but if we have only a few of the many who've signed up for today's experience, we might decide to give them an extra minute or two of grace. We'll see. But again, for those of you who have just joined us, so glad to have you with us today. Thank you. I'm Greg Stoltz with New Readers Press, and I'm going to be walking you through the study dashboard of online learning this afternoon in just a few short minutes. So before we start, make sure you stretch, get a beverage. I'll leave it that wide open. Get a beverage and get ready for about an hour of hopefully good information and helpful suggestions. Again, I'd like to say good afternoon. There are more joining us now. They're starting to roll in. For those of you who have just signed in, I'd like to say welcome. This is Greg Stoltz. I'm going to be the presenter today, walking you through the online learning student experience, showing you the ins and outs, and more importantly, answering questions that you may be posting in the chat so that we make this relevant for everyone who's on today. We are going to be beginning in just a few minutes, but based on the number who registered and the number of participants that are logged in, I'm going to give it just another minute and just to extend a little grace, and then we'll get started for those of you who did log in promptly, if not beforehand. We'll get this rolling for you. All right. Well, by my clock, I have 3:02, and I am going to, of course, we're going to welcome anyone who is joining us just a few minutes late. But to stay on schedule for all of you who have joined us and are here now, I'd like to say thank you for your promptness. And I hope that you find this informative and helpful. I brought in the big guns today. So actually in the wings, monitoring our chat and the questions that roll in, we have our National Sales Director, Dan Helms. So Dan, thank you so much for giving us your time this afternoon. If you wouldn't mind showing my mug, I'm trying to unlock my video just so that people can see that this is in fact live and I am not a robot, then I would appreciate it.
I have the video turned on now, Greg. I'm not sure. I can see your face, but it's just your picture.
Oh, you can? Okay. Well, it says that that it hasn't started the video, and isn't that odd? You cannot start your video because the host has stopped it. That's unusual. Well, then we'll just roll with this. For those of you who are seeing a still picture of me, that's recent. I just got that done the other day. So that's me, and I'm wearing a bow tie of a different color today, but it's the same old me. Okay.
I'll go ahead and interject one couple of questions here that already rolled in so that you'll be thinking about them as you come to that.
Yes.
One person, Robert, would like to know how he could monitor students' progress within a particular lesson, like the kind of questions that the student is missing. And another person wants to know if he's impersonating the student, can the student also be working at the same time? So I'll leave that there and I'll come back later.
Excellent questions. And they are actually kind of tied to each other. So I will address those as we get to that point. And I thank you for those questions. Keep them rolling in. All right, then, without further ado, again, I'm Greg Stoltz. I'm the trainer for New Readers Press, and it's a pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. Thank you for giving us your time. I'm going to dive into the study dashboard and show you actually a few screens, as I think they'll be helpful. We'll look at the pre-HSC platform, and I'm thinking the GED platform, and even the HiSET if we have time. But just to show you how they're similar and a few areas in which they're different. Again, if you'll continue to keep those questions rolling in the chat, then Dan will interrupt if it's timely, and if not, then we'll try and address those toward the end or at some point during today's presentation. All right, so this is online learning, our digital solution for both the pre-HSC and all three of the high school equivalency tests. We have just launched our task level courses as well. So offering something for everyone, regardless of where your learners are on their path to high school equivalency test preparation. The first comment that I want to make is actually before we launch into the platform itself, I want to show you here on our website, newreaderspress.com, and then clicking in the center here where it says Digital Solutions, how there are a number of places, number of tabs that will give you help. You can click on any, the pre-HSC, GED, HiSET, or task here across the top as they pertain to you. But as far as the tabs are concerned, they basically have the same tabs. And the one thing that I want to point out before we get going is right here, and that is the mobile app. This is something that I can't stress enough. One of the first things that you want to do when setting up your learners is to make sure that they download the mobile app to one or more of their mobile devices. It's, and why? Because it's just going to increase the amount of time and the opportunities that they might have, to put in some study time. It's a great feature that not only can they study when they're in a computer lab or when they're on their PC at home, possibly even in a library, but when they can be sitting there at a doctor's office, dentist's office, waiting in the waiting room. Maybe they're in the break room or lunch room at work or school. Maybe they are at the laundromat, or maybe just in their armchair, getting ready to watch the next rerun of Heart to Heart or Barney Miller. And they didn't like it the first time they saw it, but they're just bored out of their minds. But they happen to have their mobile device right next to them, as we all do these days. So you know what, gee, maybe I'll log in and I'll bang out a couple of lessons. This is how they'll do it. So make sure that you show them, let them know this is where to go for easy instructions. And there's even a quick video to walk them through it. It's no more difficult than downloading any other mobile app. And again, it's a great way to make sure that they're getting the most out of the program. The really good news is that once they do download the app, they actually have the ability to work offline. So if they're on a data plan, all they have to do is log in with on Wi-Fi when they have the connection, and then once they're logged in on their mobile device on the mobile app, then they go to airplane mode, switch to airplane mode, and now they're working offline. And they can do that to their heart's content. The only thing they need to be very careful about is that before logging out of their session, which is also important, especially in the in the mobile app, you want to log out. They need to go back, switch from airplane mode back on to where they have a connection so that it will sync and upload and all of their work will be saved. And I think that's huge, that they can work offline like that. So walk them through that process. Make sure, for accountability's sake, make sure, did you download the app? So it's on your phone, it's on your tablet. Awesome, you can work from there and you can even work offline. Just make sure that you go to airplane mode after you've logged in, and you leave airplane mode and let your work sync before you log out, and then log out of the app. All right. So let's go in and go right to the experience. I'm going to use one of my favorite pseudo learners. We'll use Jem Finch. He is in a pre-HSE class. So here we have the login, and I'll point out that the login screen looks the same for all users, whether they're taking pre-HSE courses, GED, high-set task, and even for administrators and instructors, you got the same login. Just based on your role or roles, it will take you to different places. It's going to take Jem to wait for it. His pre-HSE math. So here we have Jem with his pre-HSE mathematics. And if I want to switch, if Jem decides he doesn't want to work in mathematics, then here at the top in the center, you have the drop down, and Jem can decide, you know what, I want to switch to reading and writing, to science, to social studies, and I'll show you how easy that is to do. Clicking on social studies. Now it takes Jem from his mathematics course to social studies. And here's another bonus. If Jem happens to be working with a foot in both camps, maybe he has some pre-HSE courses he's working on, but he's doing GED or high-setter tasks in others. Then using this same drop-down, everything that he's signed up for and has access to will appear here, and he can even move from pre-HSE courses to HSE level courses, all on the same platform. Now that we're here, I want to point out that we have the perfect means to make sure that GEM is on track. And this is a pacing feature. It's an adaptive calendar. And as you see here, it says that he has 34 days until completion. GEM is scheduled to complete his HSE Social Studies course by November 3rd. But you know what? If that's no longer a realistic goal for GEM, maybe he's going to miss a week of class, maybe he has, for whatever reason, then we can reassess, and GEM can do this. We can do this with our student or even for our students. But here we can set a new deadline, and we can say, you know what? It's unrealistic that he's going to be able to finish this in 34 days. He's only 33% through the course and probably has to put in a good 30 minutes every day from now until the 3rd. So let's set this to December. We'll give GEM to the end of the year and reset the deadline. And now he has 92 days in which to complete the course. And this can be done at any time. Just make sure that you and your learners are on the same page there. All right. So what can we see here along with the calendar? Along with saying that he has 92 days, it also gives him a knowledge goal. It says that today's goal, based on his calendar, is 11 knowledge points. A knowledge point, for those of you who don't know, is worth about a minute's worth of study time. So that if he wants to complete Unit 1, Lesson 2, the skills practice, the system says that it's going to take him, let's see, 15 to 30 minutes, 16 knowledge points. So roughly 16 minutes, between 15 and 30. And so this we can use for pacing. GEM can look at this and say, do I have enough time to bang out these practice questions, or should I wait? And he can look and see how much this is worth. And he can also see how much he has to do. If I do this Unit 1, Lesson 2 skills practice, 16 knowledge points exceeds my daily goal. So I'll be ahead of the game. And he can go ahead and launch into the practice questions. All right, and actually, let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to point out that using the next button here, all right, will move GEM from the beginning of the structured plan, the beginning of the structured course in social studies, all the way to the end, all right? Every time he clicks next, it'll take him to the next thing he's supposed to do in order to complete the structured course. And what does that structured course look like? Well, if I move from the home page and click on course here on the left side in the menu, it'll show me exactly what the structured plan, as you can see here, is. That's what it'll default to, is a structured plan. We can go down, we can see his completed courses, his completed work here. There's a course introduction, followed by the pretest, and then unit by unit, lesson by lesson, blow by blow. And we can actually even open this up and it'll show us. Here's the course introduction. Now, I'm going to stop here and say, I implore you as instructors, as administrators, supervisors, do this course introduction yourself. You have it when you log into your reporting dashboard if you're an instructor, your administrative dashboard when you're an administrator. You can simply go over to your user icon in the upper right-hand corner and find your study tab and click on it, and it will take you to the user experience. Do the course introduction, because it's going to give you a walkthrough of all of the different features that your learners are going to be using. And you need to be able to explain these and understand them as well. So we have the course introduction, then they'll take, the next thing that they'll be prompted to do is take the pretest. 96 knowledge points. Wow, okay, so it's going to take them, and here is where you let them know as well, it could take them upwards of an hour and a half to do this. right? The good news is they can actually pause tests, so they don't have to knock it all out at once. They can pause. All right, and then through the units. Unit 1, there's a unit introduction for each new unit and unit objectives, and then it will move them through the lessons. And each lesson is comprised of the lesson itself, this one on geography and geographic tools, then vocabulary flashcards to work on vocabulary, and finally, a skills practice with practice questions. Once they've completed that lesson, then they move on to the next lesson, Unit 1, Lesson 2, and the same thing here. The lesson itself, the vocabulary flashcards, and a skills practice with questions. And this is how they move through the course, all right? That's the structured plan, and whenever they click on this next button, that's what it's going to take them to. The next thing that they need to complete according to the structured plan. But there is an option, and this is one of the many things that I love about the online learning is that we want students to be able to customize their experience, personalize it. Different students have different needs. One of the things that they can do is click here where it says curriculum, and they'll only have this option if, in fact, you've assigned them curriculum. But they can click here to see what their instructor or instructors have laid out for them for homework or in lieu of the structured plan. You may know, based on the student's pretest scores or based on other data that you have on the student, or whether just the plan that you come up with, or depending on how you want to use this platform, that the student doesn't need everything in a social studies course. So you can custom tailor it and assign curriculum to your learner. Now, I'm not going to go into that today. That's actually for another session coming up in October when we look at the reporting dashboard. But suffice it to say that you can customize curriculum and your student will be able to access it by clicking here on the course tab and then clicking on curriculum and see any and all work that you've assigned. And simply by clicking on that, like so, it'll take them to that assignment and have them work on the assignment. And you see here, it doesn't say next, it says assignment. So to be very clear, after completing this assignment, all right, then it's going to say next. That's not going to take your student to the next assignment you've given them. The next always takes the student to the structured plan, the next thing in the structured plan. You have to let your student know that she or he needs to work exclusively. If you are having them work and only want them to complete your curriculum, they have to work from the curriculum tab and complete these one after another. Okay? So 2 ways of working through the course. There's the structured plan, soup to nuts, beginning to end, and there's curriculum where they can look for assignments or a curriculum that you've created for them, whether you're fast tracking them, focusing only on algebra or on world history, whatever the topic or subject area may be, and that's how you do that. So other features as they work through to give them a rest, just another way to study and to keep things engaging, they have games. And there are 4 different games, 2 of which are available on the mobile app. Not all the games are, but there are 4 different games that they can play, and they can just click at any time and go in, and they can decide what material they want covered, so they can filter the topics, and then they can go ahead and play the games. And on their home tab, it will keep score for them. Clicking back to the home tab, scrolling down here, they can see what their top game scores are. All right. And another way that students like to keep score, I'll mention it since I'm here, scrolling down, is the achievement board. Students are going to be unlocking different achievement badges. Some they'll have to work for, others they'll just stumble over. I'm going to open this up and show you what I mean. Here there are 53 achievements that they can unlock in the social studies course. The 10-second car, answer a question correctly in less than 10 seconds. They may not even be trying to get this. A hot streak, answering 5 consecutive questions correctly. And as they unlock these different badges, they'll receive a notification here in their in-app mailbox that says, you've unlocked a new badge. And on their homepage, it'll show them, here are your badges, and then they can go and see all of the badges that they've acquired and those that are left to acquire. I know a lot of programs that are using this and just for fun, having an achievement leaders board from week to week or on a monthly basis saying, hey, here are our achievement badges leaders. And that's just an idea that you may want to do. I even know a few who are saying, to keep them motivated, leaders at the end of the week, at the end of the month, will be given like a $5 Dunkin' Donuts gift card or something along those lines. So anything to keep them engaged and motivated, I'm all for. So that's basically how they would work through the course. Here's your home tab that lays out the agenda for them, and they can track their progress, 33% through the course. Here by mousing over, you see that it shows it in a different way as well. 500 of 1,505 knowledge points, which makes perfect sense. They're a third of the way through the course. And 1,504 knowledge points means roughly 1,500 minutes worth of study. And again, this work is all done for you. You don't have to do the math. The adaptive calendar does. In order to stay on pace, you need to do about 11 to 15 minutes of work today, and that'll keep you on pace. And this changes daily. Okay, so they work through the course, taking it a lesson at a time, using the next button to click through, or going to the curriculum tab and checking the assignments that you've laid out for them. And they can also check their discussion board. Here, again on the menu to the left, clicking on discussions. Once you've invited your learner or learners to join a discussion group, and it could be a private group, just one-on-one, a handful of learners or the whole class, and you can have multiple groups going on. Once they join, then they can click here and they can find, when they click on that discussion, they can find assignments that you've sent to them. They can go back and forth with discussions between you and others. Again, they can't initiate it, but they can join and then go back and forth with you. And this discussion board is a great feature for you as an instructor to use, because you can use the board to actually send them assignments. You can send them attachments. Filtering here has attachments, and you can let them know, I've attached worksheets for you. You can give them videos to watch. They can send you writing their essays via the discussion dashboard. So lots of different opportunities, and here you see some examples. Watch this video on the Cherokee Nation and the Trail of Tears. So here you've got the URL to the YouTube video, right? And you've got some other things attached here, attachments, right? They can reply to the comment, and that's your discussion board. One other way to communicate that I'll mention is not a two-way communication, but you can also, and I'll be dealing with this in an upcoming webinar, send them messages in their in-app, to their in-app mailbox, and that's just one way. So again, communication is key here. This is how you can discuss things with your learners, make sure they're getting their assignments, and more. All right, let's walk through an actual lesson. I'm going to click down to lessons because this is an easy way for me to navigate. Here under lessons, you can see the table of contents. And here's another tip for you instructors. If you're trying to determine, how can I create a blended learning experience? How can I make this a part of what I'm doing with them so that they're working on their own independently, but when I join them for a session, maybe it's synchronous instruction as a class. You're trying to keep them together. Maybe you want to work one-on-one with a learner, see where he is or she is, and then determine, this is how I can piggyback on what they've just completed, or this is how I can get them started and then give them these assignments. You can look at everything here, lesson by lesson, using the table of contents, and it'll show you blow by blow. Here's what's covered in the course introduction, Unit 1. Right? You can also take a look here, and you see here where you have these icons that there's a video attached so that you know for reference, okay, there's a video here that they could watch as well and know that in advance. Okay. The students can use this lessons tab in a different fashion, and that is by clicking on lessons and then looking at their confidence levels, notes, bookmarks, and highlights that they may have made, and going back to those for review purposes. Before I get into that, why don't we actually go to an actual lesson and let me show you what that looks like for the learner. So we're going to skip to Unit 3, Civics and Government, and go to Lesson 1, Democracy. The students can navigate this way as well, okay? And here's what a typical lesson looks like. So you have the lesson layout here, what is democracy? And the students read through this. They can click on the highlighted words and terms, because these are vocabulary words, and they can even listen.
Ancient Greece, collection of city-states where important political ideas began.
Now, this is not available at the GED high set task level, but it is at the pre-HSE level for obvious reasons. Learners may be, more challenged as far as reading fluency is concerned. By the way, the pre-HSE courses are set at a 6th to 8th grade reading level. So reading levels 6 to 8 for the pre-HSE courses. And for that reason, this is a great course for, transitioning English language learners, lower level readers who need the content, but are not yet reading at level, up at a 9th, 10th grade reading level. And for those learners, this can make a big difference, having the audio available. You can see that the audio is available here in the toolbar in the upper right-hand corner, and I can click on that.
What is democracy? The United States is a young country. The ideas that helped make American democracy are more than 2,500 years old, however.
And we can pause that, all right? But it will read the lesson to the learners so that they can listen, they can follow along, improve their reading fluency, improve pronunciation, right? They can pause it when necessary, and to a degree.
The founders of the United States built the...
Pause, please. And to a degree, they can even control the speed. There's a normal and a gradual. I will tell you it's a very subtle difference, but the gradual is at a slower reading pace, okay? In addition to the audio, which could be a good thing too, because if you're having if you're having a synchronous session with your learners, you can simply play the audio and let everybody listen all at once. Maybe you're on Google Meeting, or you're using a Zoom platform to meet with them. You can listen together, pause when necessary, ask questions to make it interactive, check for understanding, comprehension. and that's the audio feature. Other things that I want to mention as they work from lesson to lesson is up here in the toolbar as well. They can highlight. So clicking here on highlight a selection, they could, for example, say, gee, I don't really understand direct democracy, so I want to highlight this passage. And now you can see here in soft orange, it highlights where I've clicked. Again, the course introduction will walk them through this, but you may even want to make this a lesson that you go through with your learners. Do the course introduction with them as a class or sing, individually, and make sure that they understand how to effectively use these resources. They can remove a highlight with the eraser as well. Additionally, if they decide that they want to bookmark this lesson and come back to it because they didn't understand it or parts of it, then they can click here, bookmark, and they can even make notes. Under democracy, I don't understand direct democracy. Is it different than cable democracy? And they can add that, and now they have that question saved as a note. Moving down, you can see that there are key terms here, and once again, they can click on those and listen to them and see the definition.
Ancient Greece, collection of city-states where important political ideas began.
And there's guided practice as they move through the lessons as well. Sometimes it's a vocabulary tip. Otherwise, it's connecting the past to the present, or it's a test-taking tip. But what they can do is they can choose to hide the tip or to show the tip or to work through the lesson first, and then after they've worked through, they can open that and get their tip here. Okay. The last thing I want to point out here as they work through a lesson is the necessity to rate their confidence. So if I try and click continue now, I can click here all day. It ain't gonna let me do anything. Not until I self-assess what I've read. Okay, what is democracy? I bookmarked it. I highlighted part of it. I said that I didn't understand direct democracy. I understand some of the other stuff. I'm gonna give this, realistically, and this is important, honestly, I'm gonna give this a low confidence rating. I don't understand it, and there are a lot of new words that I'm struggling with. So I'll click low, and now you can see that's changed, and I can continue. Giving it a low rating didn't stop me in my tracks, and it's taking me to the next part of the lesson. Rating the confidence simply will tell my instructor, and it will be for my own use as a student when I go back to look at my confidence levels, notes, bookmarks, and highlights for review purposes. Here's where I need to go back and study. And you as the instructor can see that as well. All right. So we go ahead and we work through, continuing on always to the next. And that's essentially how this works. Here's an example, Bill of Rights, right, where a video is included. Now, closed captioning for videos is available when it's a YouTube video, something that we got from the net. If it's a video that we've created, we don't have that closed caption. And it's as easy as that, folks, working through the lessons. Now, one of the questions that was asked that Dan shared is, what happens, how can we tell exactly where our learners are and what they're struggling with? And that's a great question, so I will actually address that now. Your students can always see what they're struggling with because they can go to lessons and then clicking on confidence levels, they can see, here are my low confidence lessons, medium, and high. They can also go to practice questions. We're talking about the students now. And clicking on practice questions here and on the left, they can scroll down and see lesson by lesson through the units, their level of their percentage of correctness, right? And they can even see the exact questions that they answered incorrectly and more. They can look at the time spent on questions answered correctly versus incorrectly. And then they can even go back and preview the full question and or review the lesson. That's how a learner can tell where she or he is struggling and go back for review purposes. But what about you, the instructor? You have the ability, and I'm going to be, again, showing this in a different webinar in October, more on the reporting dashboard. But on the reporting dashboard, when you're clicking on the student data to see how she or he is doing, then there's a button that's called the impersonation tab or button. And you can click on impersonate, and you can actually enter into the student course or courses and scroll down and choose which one you want to view. And you can, by impersonating, let's say GEM, for example, in impersonation mode, you can come and look and see exactly what GEM is working on and seeing. And it's going to caution you, in fact, it's going to warn you to look but don't touch, because anything that you complete on GEM's behalf is going to show as GEM's work. But this is how you can come in as the instructor and see exactly what he is doing. Now, I'm going to fess up here and say thank you for that great question earlier. I'm going to have to play and see, because I haven't tried, nor has an instructor actually asked this question before or shared this information with me. I don't know whether you can be impersonating a learner while she or he is working on things or not. I can tell you that when you're impersonating a student, you're not eating away at time. It's not affecting the time on task if you're impersonating a student. But can you be impersonating the student and your student be working at the same time? I'm going to have to check, and I will get this answer out to you, unless somebody can share in the chat who may know by now because they've already done it. But there you have it. This is how students can use their lessons, how they would use and the confidence levels, and how important it is for you to let them know in assessing lesson after lesson, task after task. It's crucial that they're honest with themselves.
Hey, Greg, I'm going to interject just because there are 3 or 4 chat messages that pertain to where you are right now, and it'll
Yes.
be easier this way. So regarding your one question, Rebecca says, yes, you can be impersonating a student at the same time as the student is working, that she has done that.
Cool.
Michael says that wants to know, can a student retake his or her practice questions. Hang on to that one because there was another person that also agreed that you can be in there and the student can be in there too. And actually 3 people confirmed that. So obviously you can do that. So we'll go back to that question. Can a student retake his practice questions? And there was one more that I'm trying to roll back up to it. They all came flooding in at once. About how to get to the practice questions. Yeah, how do you get to the practice questions? Is it on the pages of the course?
Okay, great questions. So yes, so since we pretty much finished up with the lessons tab here in the menu, let me actually skip flashcards and we'll come back and take a quick look. But let's go to practice questions since a lot of your questions are focusing on them. Here in the menu, on the left again, are the practice questions. Now, the students will be given these practice questions as they work through the course. All right, and in fact, let's go up to course and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So we're going to go to course. And in the structured plan, as we scroll down here, you will see skills practice. All right, that's what it's talking about. The skills practice, these are the practice questions, and they're a part of each lesson. The lesson is comprised of the lesson itself, the vocabulary flashcards would follow, followed by the skills practice. And that's how they work through the units, lesson by lesson. Lesson, flashcards, practice questions. Lesson, flashcards, practice questions. So we'll click on practice questions here because it's focusing on just that. It's focusing on their questions. And now they can go and by category, unit and lesson, all right, they can go back and look up the practice questions that they have completed, all right? And it's going to give them some aggregate totals up here as well, right, on the dashboard. Now look what we have here near the top on the right in red. Reset all questions. And it's in red for a pretty good reason. Can they retake the practice questions? You bet they can. Up to 3 times they can reset this. By clicking confirm reset here, your answers, bookmarks, notes, and confidence levels associated with the practice questions will be erased. And then you'll be able to retake the same questions again. Okay. In fact, if you do confirm the reset, you'll be prompted to go ahead and the next button will take you through the practice questions that you've reset. And that's what it's going to have you do. Since you decided to reset all your practice questions, confirm reset, and then, and I don't want to do that, and then it will have you work through those practice questions again. This is another feature that you're going to want to go over with your students because, you know, it's just human nature. I failed and I hate that. So I want to try again right now. Do I want to do?
One more question about this, Greg, since you're here.
Yes.
When you reset them, what happens to the old answers?
The old answers will be saved and you can see them under here if you click on reset reports. And it will show you that Jem has already actually reset his questions once. And it shows the reset date, the completion, how far he got, and the level of correctness and his average answer time. Now, just, you know, it doesn't get into the nitty gritty and it won't save the individual questions that he missed for the old reports, just an aggregate look, okay? But it will at least show you his totals, and now he can go back and retake those questions and you'll be able to see old versus new, not question by question, blow by blow, but you'll be able to see those old totals. Okay.
Okay, so you've almost answered all of their questions in this category, except for one, and it's asking, So is there any way to reset questions just for one lesson, or does it have to be all of them?
It does, at this point, it's all or none. Yeah, you can't reset lesson by lesson. That is a request that I've heard more than once, but it's not something that we have that you can do at this point in time. So resetting questions is resetting all. And for that reason, you want to be very careful about, about instructing your students as to when they reset the questions. Before you reset, I want you to go back and review these lessons and these questions. Once you've confirmed a better understanding, then check with me and go ahead and we'll hit the reset, and we can look at previous and current score once you've looked at that to look at gains. You'll find similarly that the tests work in the same fashion. So I'm going to skip down from practice questions, if I may, down to tests. And clicking on tests, some aggregate totals at the top, and then it's going to show us the tests that Jem has taken, the pre-test, and the Unit 1 review, and if, and he's retaken tests, it will show the previous score reports. Jem took the Unit 1 review back in July of 2019, and it's recorded his score, and then he retook it, and he scored an 86, whereas he scored a 68 the first time. All right. There's something else that I'd like to show you here while we're here on the tests, and this, especially for the pre-HSE, you can click on his pre-HSE test, pre-test, and you can look at the question review, and it'll show you exactly the questions that he answered correctly and incorrectly, right? And he can look at that as well and go back and review, okay? But additionally, you could choose to click on category scores here next to the question review, and clicking on category scores is going to show you the questions, and they're grouped by the category. So on the pretest, pertaining to Unit 1, right, there were 8 questions. And it shows you the breakdown and what they were related to. Global and US regions, climate and weather. So you could actually go and look by category and help and use this to help you, if you wanted to, prescribe study for your student, right? Based on where he missed the information. Maybe he aced the 4 questions on a world at war. And so you don't need to go through the lessons about the World War, but where he really needs help is in civics and government. So you could go and look at these and determine, where he needs more or less remediation and review. Again, for resetting, here it is in red, reset test. And if we click on it before it lets him or her do it, by clicking, your answers, bookmarks, notes, and confidence levels associated with the test questions will be erased, and then you can retake. There are 3 resets left for this test. Confirm or cancel, right? Make sure that your student is spending ample time reviewing the questions, lessons missed, and then once there's been time spent in review, gone over the notes and bookmarks, if any, and the missed questions, then have the student go back and retake the test. Because what we're looking for, of course, we want to see leveled gains where the student, when he takes that unit review again, he moves from 68 to an 86, to a 96, right? And that's how a student and you can click on and use the practice questions and tests tabs, right? As a quick search, you can use the search. And here, simply clicking, you could say, you know, I want lessons or information on the Constitution. You can filter and say, you know, I just want lessons, I want questions, I want flashcards, I want all of the above. And here it will show you everything pertaining to the Constitution, whether it's a flashcard, go to the lesson, or answer practice questions. And that's the search button. Down here for support, they can always come back, and here's easy access for the course introduction that will familiarize them with all the features of the course, getting started, contacting support, and even help questions. I don't understand how to use the confidence level. How do I use the course dashboard? How do I change my test date? Common questions that they can ask just under support. So I've given you a pretty good look, quick look, albeit, but a look at the pre-HSC. I just want to do this and show you a few of the differences, and I'll continue to take questions as we go in and look at Bruce Wayne.
And since, here's a question for you.
Yes.
And this one is just that, is there a prompt in the structured plan so the student knows when to take a test at the correct time?
Not in the structured plan, not a prompt necessarily, but in fact, well, I'll show you. I'll show you live. So here we're logging into the GED course to see how Bruce Wayne, another of my fictitious students, is doing. And this is GED Social Studies, right? Bruce is next, he's 17% through the course. If he follows the structured plan, he's going to be doing Unit 1, Lesson 4, which is going to take him roughly 12 minutes. He has 45 days to complete the course. And if he wants to stay on pace, he needs to do about 22 minutes worth of work today and every day, right? Will he be prompted? Well, here's what's going to happen. Let's go to course, and in the structured plan, and you'll notice there's nothing that says curriculum here next to structured plan. That's because Bruce's instructor didn't assign him any customized curriculum. So Bruce is just working from the structured plan from beginning to end, right? And as we scroll down here, this is what's going to happen. For Unit 1, all right, he's currently on Lesson 4, and he's going to do Lesson 4, Human Geography, and then he's going to do the flashcards, and then he's going to do the practice questions, and guess what? The next thing following the practice questions after Unit 1, Lesson 4, he's going to take the Unit 1 review. So not only will it prompt him, but it's going to be the next button. Once he finishes the geography practice questions, the next is going to give him the unit review. However, before it does that, it's going to give him a snapshot of the work that he's completed, and then it's going to ask him, based on this snapshot, here it is, here's a quick recap of your task. You've earned 12 knowledge points today. Here's your study plan progress. Okay. Today's knowledge goal. And here's what you did, 33% correct. Now what do you want to do? Do you want to review these questions, or are you ready for the next study task, which happens to be the Unit 1 review? Okay. So once again, giving the student the steering wheel. What do you want to do? Do you want to go on to the next task? Or based on the information that we've given you here, do you want to go back and review these questions? Well, at 33% correct, I know what I would do. But this is how you can work with your student, how you can encourage your student to work, take responsibility for your learning experience. And if you need to review questions, if you missed quite a few, even if you missed one, go back and review that question before you move on, right? You might want to look at that question and bookmark it. Make a note next to it, right? And at any time, go to your lessons and look at confidence levels. And they can do that by clicking on confidence levels, or they can even in the table of contents, do it a different way and scroll down. How to use the course. Bruce was good on everything except interpreting sources, right? Moving down to Unit 1, he gave a high confidence rating to most of the things, but was only a medium on organizing the Earth's surface, population stats, right? So he could choose to review in that fashion, or by clicking on confidence levels and going to those mediums, and if there were any, the lows, and he can go back and look at his notes. He can go to bookmarked lessons, population stats. That was one of the ones that he had given a medium confidence level to. And even click on highlights. He had only one highlight, and this is what he had highlighted, right? Lots of different ways to work. One thing I want to point out that with the GED and task and high set courses, the tests are just a tad different. With the pre-HSE courses, you have the pre-test and you have the unit reviews, and then there's a post-test. The post-test is really an indicator of course comprehension, okay? The pre-test tested on everything in the course before they took the course. The post-test is going to test them on everything in the course once they've finished the course, pre and post. So what is the practice test? The practice test is a half-length test for each of the subject areas, and it's going to be more indicative of whether or not the learner is ready to take that HSE test. In this case, the GED Social Studies. So you have the pre-test, right, as a pre-indicator and possibly prescriptive of what you want the student to focus more or less on. Then you have the post-test to check for course comprehension and understanding. Did they grasp everything? How did they do? And of course, for to show level gains here, pre and post. And then you have the practice test to use as an indicator. Are you ready? We are at 4 o'clock. Dan, do we have other questions in the chat?
There are a couple.
Yes.
And I have answered. Some, and some of my answers we might want to run by you.
Okay.
Let's see. Like, here's an interesting one. Does working offline, on the mobile phone that you talked about with the airplane mode, working offline use one of the seats if, like, the student doesn't log out of the phone properly before turning it onto airplane mode?
Oh.
And so here's what I said. I just said that's an interesting question. We all know students don't always log out, but the good news is, if that does happen to be the case, this program does have a built-in timeout feature. And so at a certain point, the program would automatically log the student out anyway. Do you know what the time limit is on that logout feature?
15 minutes is the log out.
Okay, that's what I thought.
There's a
Somebody
15 minutes and then it will stop giving, it will no longer give the student. Now that won't boot the student out. What it will do is it will stop so that the time on task is no longer, let me say that again. The 15-minute timeout feature, at the end of 15 minutes, if the student has done nothing, it will erase and not count that 15 minutes or moving forward as time on task.
Yeah, it would not count as time, but the follow-up question just submitted was, well, but when they do sync, is their work still going to sync up?
Their work will not sync for anything that, if they've let, it will not sync if they timed out and simply forgot. Boy, I don't know who asked that question, but I don't appreciate questions that are difficult and make me look foolish.
Well, I won't give you Hannah's name then. There was a question about what the TABE equivalency levels are for the courses, and basically, if I can find it here, I said that in online learning, the pre-HSE course corresponds to TABE level D. The high school equivalency courses, GD, high set tasks, correspond to TABE level A. But to be more specific, they should know that these lessons are all correlated to the college and career readiness standards, and I provided the link on our website for that correlation.
Thank you, Dan. And that is exactly right. And to return to that other question, I hope you realize that I'm kidding, but not everyone does, especially if you're not watching my facial expressions. An excellent question as far as the offline usage is concerned. Now, will the offline take up a seat of the concurrent licenses? No, it will not. So if someone is working offline, then it's not going to affect usage for another learner. However, as far as the time recorded, and if they in fact let it go to sleep and they're inactive, and then they log back on and sync, what will be saved as work and time and progress. Question that I need to go back and analyze carefully before I answer it, because I don't want to give you a careless response.
Okay, and here's another question.
Yes.
And it is, Amy says she was able to see the audio option, but wonders, is there also audio for pre-test or post-test? My answer, and I'm not 100% sure, you're going to show us, so you know what, I'll just wait and see.
It is important to show this.
Okay, and one person has raised a hand, and I might see if I can figure out who that person is, or encourage her to type her question in the chat. And there was a question about, are each of those shaded clocks representative of 15 minutes of study?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is up to 15 minutes study. So we'll look at this together once more. But first, going back to the test, I paused it. I want to show you. As far as the test is concerned, see here, we paused it. You can pause the test. I'm going to return to the test and resume test. And as you look here, nowhere do you see the audio. Once it comes to the practice questions and tests, it's just that. This is practice for the real deal. They're not going to have the audio. And so for the practice questions and tests, there is no audio. There is, however, full audio for the lessons and for vocabulary words, but not for the actual practice questions and tests. To the other question, and remind me, Dan, that was in looking at the lessons and the audio.
Can't remember. I can't remember now. Let's see. How do I monitor? I think we covered how you monitor students' progress within a particular. So I'm going to mark that as answered.
Oh, there it is, the clock question.
The clock question. There you go.
Thank you. And I'm sorry. Yeah, so the clock question here, let's go to course and I'll show you. Here with Unit 1, 20 knowledge points. Now, there are 2 clocks, but that doesn't mean 30 minutes. 2 clocks means up to 30 minutes, you know, each clock being 15 minutes. And this is just a gauge, folks. Here, there's 1 clock for Unit 1, Lesson 2 that indicates less than 15 minutes. How many knowledge points, though? Just 4. So don't be confused, and don't let your students be confused by it. It's supposed to be a help, not a hindrance. This clock says this means it's less than 15 minutes, just as a thumb rule. Go by the knowledge points, which is more indicative of how much real time it might take. And that is 4 knowledge points. So you can bang out this lesson in somewhere around 5 minutes. Or, yes, under 15. Okay. Here's another good example. 16 knowledge points. That's just a minute over 1 clock. But because it is over, it's going to show 2 clocks. Okay. Dan, anything else in the chat that I may have missed or didn't cover?
I think we have covered everything. A couple of thank you, Gregs, in here. A couple of mentions that you've been helpful. And there was a question that pertained to something you're going to cover next time. So I just mentioned that you'll have another Wise Up Wednesday session coming soon.
Excellent. And I'd like to say personally, thank you, Mom and Dad, for the thank you comments. I'll see you tonight for dinner. Everyone, I do appreciate your time this afternoon, and I hope this has been helpful. You can always reach out to your state sales rep with additional questions that you may have, and we will be more than happy to answer your questions fully, because the bottom line is we want you, the end users, your students, to have an amazing experience with this. It's actually a really good platform. And there's so much that you can do with it. I hope that you walked away with some new ideas today, and with any other questions that you may have as you walk through the courses with your learners. Don't hesitate to send your questions, your comments, and your suggestions to your rep or to me directly. And you'll find me on the New Readers Press website under various states, but Alaska is the easiest one to remember. But I welcome your comments and suggestions and questions. For today, again, thank you so much. We want you to know that we appreciate everything that you're doing, especially in these trying times, a whole new way of having to provide instruction for your learners. So whatever we can do to make that a better experience for you, let us know. We want you to know that we appreciate you and the extraordinary job that you're doing and the task that you have set before you. So thanks again for today. We hope to see you at the next session. God bless and have a great rest of the afternoon.
Thanks, Greg.